Grace and peace, everybody. Grace and peace, everybody. Give y'all a minute to come on in. Give y'all a minute to come on in and join us. I know we're a little behind tonight. About exactly an hour behind. So we won't keep you long tonight. Grace and peace, and God bless you. Grace and peace. Hey, everybody. God bless y'all tonight. We're going to go ahead and get started. Grateful for all of you who are tuning in tonight and who have taken out the time to join us. Please excuse our late start. But we are here. Hey, Destiny. I pray that everybody is well. I am literally just getting off the road, but I wanted to make sure we did what we were supposed to be doing today and serving the kingdom as well as we serve everybody else. God bless you, Elder Head. Amen. And so I'm not going to keep you guys long tonight. We're going to still pick back up where we've been at. Hey, Kai. The book of Genesis, chapter number 3. Book of Genesis, chapter number 3, the latter part of the text, of the chapter, rather. We've been having some very interesting conversations, very interesting dialogue as it relates to family and what God says about it and how God handles family and how he established family and why he established family. Just a quick recap about what we're talking about here. Family is, again, in this day and time, one of those things that is left up to interpretation. Everybody has an idea of what they think family should look like. So much so that we have convoluted the truth. So much so that we have, even in our churches, taken on an idea of family that God never intended. God bless you, Sister Tristan. It's good to see you, sweetie. And so with that being said, Adam, Eve, who were the first established family that God set in order. Let us be clear and extremely concise that God put these two individuals together. Bible says male and female, he created both them. It is out of that male and that female that family was made, and that marriage is set in order. Again, I know this day and time when family and all that stuff is left up to interpretation, even in our churches, God is clear. God is clear about what family is, what marriage is, what family looks like, and what marriage looks like, and all of that. So there aren't any gray areas as it relates to what family is. God bless you, Brother Courtney. It's good to see you, sir. It's good. It's an interesting thought that we have and are taking liberties in institutions that we didn't have power to create. But I want to move expeditiously tonight, and we're going to end. We're going to wrap up the end of chapter number 3. I wanted to move to chapter number 4, but we're going to wrap up the end of chapter number 3 in the book of Genesis. Um, Bible says, I want to pick up at verse. All right, let me change my. Let's change my version so that this makes sense to everybody. I want to pick up at verse number 15. Um, the Bible says, "And God said, and I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his head." And uh, to the woman, he says, "I will greatly multiply your sorrow and your conception. In pain you shall bring forth children, and you shall, and I'm sorry, you desire your desire shall be for your husband, and he shall rule over you." Then Adam said, then to Adam he said, "Because you have heeded the voice of your wife, and have eaten from the tree of which I commanded you, saying, you shall not eat of, cursed is the ground for your sake. In toil you shall eat of it, and in the day all the days of your life, but thorns and thistles it shall bring forth for you, and you shall eat the herb of the field. In the sweat of your face you shall eat bread, till you return to the ground, for out of it you were taken, for dust you are, and dust you shall return." Um, Now, the interesting thing and I want to start from um, the bottom up. The interesting thing about when God shows up and Adam and Eve are right in the middle of the first sin, which is disobedience. Um, God curses the serpent, he curses the woman, and he curses the man. Uh, he changes the entire um, spectrum of life for this man and this woman. But the interesting thing is that the curse, or the punishment rather, that he gives to Adam is much more severe than the punishment that he gives to Eve. God help me. It's more extensive, it's lengthier, and there are more facets to it. And I'll show you. It says, "Then God said to Adam, he said, because you have heeded the voice of your wife, you have eaten from the tree which I commanded you, saying, you shall not eat. Cursed is the ground for your sake. In toil you shall eat of it all the days of your life." Let's stop there. God comes to Adam and he says, listen, um, you listen to your wife before you listen to me. Um, so here it is, fellas. Um, Please understand that um, I am a true believer that the Bible is true, where when it says that a man that findeth a wife um, uh, findeth a good thing and obtaineth favor from the Lord. That is an absolute truth, an absolute promise, right? Um, but it's still clear that God gives the instruction for family to the man. He's the one responsible for the overall stability of the family. So God says, listen, man, um, I told you what to do. You were the one in charge, and you decided to listen to your wife when I told you something clear. Um, Fellas, the hard part for us is um, the gauge in the middle. Every man who loves his wife wants to make his wife happy. Every man who loves his wife has a desire to give her everything she wants. Every man who loves his wife for real is intentional about building for his wife, about sharing with his wife, about seeing her smile, making her happy. Every man who loves his wife for real wants the biggest smile that she ever gets to come from him. And so while we're trying to do all of that, it's imperative that we don't get lost in the responsibility of being a husband. Because as much as you want her to smile, you are responsible for making sure God doesn't frown. Right? Because in the long run, making her happy and disappointing God is going to put both of you in a place where she has to look at you sideways. God help me. It's an extremely uncomfortable position to be in, to do what your wife wants, but you know it doesn't line up with the will of God. It puts you in a place where, it puts you in a place of weakness as it relates to your family and your wife. You don't believe me? I can prove it. Because before you did what you knew you shouldn't have done to make her happy, you felt like the man, like you made it happen because she was smiling and happy. But then when punishment comes, she's looking at you like you should have been man enough to tell me no. God help me. When punishment comes and because she wanted the new Birkin, but you knew that the mortgage had to get paid, but you wanted to see her smile immediately. So you went and got the bag. And now the bill collectors are calling. And now she's looking at you like you're insufficient because you didn't do what she needed. You did what would make her smile for the moment. God help me. Text says that he tells Adam, because you heeded the voice. Now, and it's clear. God didn't say it's absolutely clear. There's no nothing implied. There's nothing we can make up. There's no eisegetical construct we can put in there to make it feel like, oh, this is our idea. God says, because you heeded or listened the voice of your wife and have eaten the fruit of the tree which I commanded you, saying, you shall not eat, cursed is the ground for your sake. He says, I told you one thing. You went and did what she told you to do. So now she gonna make you work. Cursed is the ground for your sake, all the days of your life. Now you might say, well, Bishop, that's not, I don't see how that's so much. Now, she gotta, she's been childbirth and conception is going to be rough for her, and she's going to have labor pains, and all of this comes because she didn't, because she ate the fruit. If she has one child, she only has to do that one time. If she has 10 children, she endures that pain 10 times. For the entire course of this man, of the man's life, he has to sweat in order to provide. God, let me bring you all into the picture. So God gives the woman pain she didn't know she had, but he takes from the man what he's already experienced. Because his job was to provide, but it had already been provided. God says, for the rest of your life, you're going to have to work now to make her happy. I'm not going to aid you into making her smile. God help me. So for the rest of your life, you're going to have to work for everything you get from the earth, because what I gave you, you couldn't handle. So maybe if you work for it, then you'll respect it. You ever gave your children something and you walk in and it's just laying around and it's proven and shown that they didn't have any respect for the amount of money you spent or the sacrifices you made or any of that, and so you get upset because you say I just spent or I just did or I went way across town to do all of that, and it's not until they start spending their money that they understand the significance of the gift that you gave them. God is working the same way. He says, listen, Adam, you didn't appreciate the fact that I gave you all of this. Well, since you didn't appreciate it, well, now you got to work to make your family happy. You have the same level of responsibility, but now you have more work to meet that same goal. Uh, he says, and it's in the sweat on your face, you shall eat bread till you return to the ground. For out of it you were taken, for dust you are, and dust you shall return. God help me. Because of Adam's disobedience, death shows up. Because y'all don't remember? In chapter number two, he says that I got to put them out of the garden now. I'm sorry, I got to put them out of the garden now because now they have an idea of what sin is, and I can't leave them in this state for an eternity. So now you got to work hard until you die. God help me. Fellas, gentlemen, husbands, it is imperative that we heed the voice of God as it relates to our family, because it doesn't just affect you, it affects those you say you love. Because now Eve has to work out in the back of her mind that my man is struggling every day and working hard and sweating to provide for me. But it didn't have to be that way. Now Eve has to look at you, put in work that was never meant to be put in. And that plays in her mind now. But I ain't got time for all of that. But the text says that God talks to Eve as well, and he says, listen, because you ate of the tree, he says, I will greatly multiply your sorrow and your conception. In pain you shall bring forth children. Your desire shall be for your husband, and he shall rule over you. God help me. So he says that the place where relationship should have been easy, now you're going to have to work for that. I don't know why we think that relationships or marriage is just this cakewalk all the time. God says that I gave you that, and now you got to work for it. Now, before we get out of here, and I gave you all this bad news, let me give you some good news. Text says that Adam and Eve were both put into very uncomfortable situations. Adam and Eve are put out of their place of comfortability. Eve now has to deal with the pain of giving life, while Adam has to look forward to death. But the joy comes in because even while all that, and I know you're saying, Bishop, I don't even understand how that's going to make a difference. Even through all of that, God never leaves them, and he never takes away the ability for them to love each other. Because see, the problem in marriage and in relationship, and we talked about it earlier in the previous verses, uh, is that now the fight should never be between the two of you. When the fight is between the two of you, both of you are going to always lose. The situation that we're in as it relates to relationships can still be happy, can still be blissful. Yeah, we got to work for it. Yeah, there's going to be some pain that we can endure. However, it is in the joining of the two that God never separated. Because see, watch it. God never says that I'm going to replace Adam or I'm going to make another Eve because they messed up. Watch this. And their marital mess up changed the course of life. And God never replaced either one of them. God help me. Their marital mess up changed the course of everything we do. And God never said, I'm going to make another Eve. I'm going to make another Adam. Now they have to fold into each other to deal with the messed up part about them. God help me. They have to fold into each other. The one flesh thing stands out now larger than it ever stood out because now it's tested. Because now it's tried. Because now we find out if it's true or if it was just because Eve was fine. God help me. We find out if it's true or was it just because Adam was paid. We find out if the foundations of marriage and family are real in the struggle. Because, well, I'm out of time. I got to go. It's in the struggle that they find out that love still exists. Watch this, that they're able to still procreate and bring forth children. We're going to talk about that next week because out of our dysfunction comes dysfunction when we don't properly fix it before we add to. Just a caveat for next week. If you don't want the messed up part of you in a smaller version, then fix it before you make the smaller version. I know you're like, Bishop, that's not deep, but it's extremely practical. But we'll get to all of that family issues and drama next week. Listen, I love y'all. We really do have to go. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us and for spending a little time with us. If you want to share with us in person, please, by all means, every Sunday morning at 11 a.m., 13509 McKay Street. It's in the city of Detroit. Meet us. We'd be more than happy to share the love of God with you and fellowship with you. There is no experience like the Worship Center experience. So listen, I love you all. You all be blessed. Grace and peace. And I'll see you same time, same place next week.